for every additional mile, squaring it is doing 8 times 8. And then that number times itself, and that number times itself, and that number times itself.
Right.
I've stood here in Michigan, right here in southwestern Michigan, in Three Oaks, Michigan, on the beach, and seen the Chicago skyline on a clear day.
That's one thing that first caught my eye.
And the thing is it's not possible. The Chicago skyline, I should be able to see just the lights on top of the Sears Tower.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the thing is that if you get a Nikon Coolpix P900 camera with a digital optical zoom, you can actually see, and there's video of this on YouTube all day long, of folks zooming in, and you can see the cars driving, and you can zoom into the license plates on the cars. There is no measurable curvature.
Mm-hmm.
And so now what people say is, well, okay, you're not seeing the curve there, but that's because somewhere else it's going to curve more, and it's going to make up for itself.
So this Earth that we live on is lumpy, but still round.
Exactly. Okay. That's the excuse. It's like, yes, it's
flat parts.
And so
yeah.
then Neil deGrasse Tyson, as you may already know, when this all started getting heated up and these things started, people started asking questions. They sent in the scientists. So first they sent in Neil deGrasse Tyson, and then now they have Bill Nye the Science Guy telling all the 90s kids what happened, right? So really what's funny is Neil deGrasse Tyson said, well, the Earth actually isn't a perfect sphere. It's oblate. He said it was an oblate spheroid. And it's more what he said is, it's an oblate spheroid, and it's actually more pear-shaped. So it's slightly wider. In fact, he says slightly chubbier at the equator than it is at the poles. Now that's fine and dandy if you guys worked all this stuff out 500 years ago when, Isaac Newton and Kepler and all these, Galileo and all these guys are discussing this stuff. That's fine if they said it then. The problem is that in 1969, we went to the moon for two reasons, right? To prove America is great and they can accomplish anything. Right. And the second thing was that we finally got a picture of it. We finally were far enough away so that we could, quote unquote, get a picture of the Earth. And guess what the picture is? The picture that we all see in every textbooks, and we all know it, and we've all seen it, whether we realize we were seeing the same photo over and over again or not. The photo is called the Blue Marble. That's what it was titled. The Blue Marble, and then later on they recreated it and called it Blue Marble 2.0. But
is this the one taken from moon?
From the moon,
okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
From the cabin of the Apollo 11 spaceship. They took a picture called the Blue Marble. Now, the Blue Marble is, in fact, a perfect circle. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look like an oblate spheroid. It's not slightly chubbier at the horizon. Mm-hmm. It's perfect. It's a perfect circle.
So that's bullshit, basically.
So you can't say it. So then now they've had to say, okay, they got us in a choke here. NASA came out and said all photos of the Earth, other than the one we took at the moon, are CGI composites. So what we do is we send satellites over the Earth, beep, 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 taking thousands of photographs, and when we get clear days and good shots, then we comprise these shots together, and we make what is called a composite, or a rendering of the Earth. When you zoom, so what I find is so funny is everyone has Google Earth on their phone. Click it on satellite, or download the full app of Google Earth, and go ahead and zoom all the way in at your house. Put it on satellite, zoom all the way in your house, and it's a real photograph of your house. Right. You know, at some point in time, you can see the color of your house, you can see the color of your roof, you can see if you have trees,
your cars parked out
front,
a
lot of information, right? So zoom out a quarter of the way, and it's still a real photograph. Zoom out half of the way, and it's still a real photograph. Right when you get to that three-quarter mark, something really, really, really interesting happens. Everything goes from real photographs to CGI, obviously CGI composites. And it's like we didn't know. It's so funny we didn't notice this. No one was thinking. We were just thinking, okay, whatever. Why would they?
That's just how it is.
That's just how it is. Mm-hmm. Why question that? But if there are, in fact, as they say, hundreds of thousands of satellites rotating around the Earth, all at the same time, we never hear of satellite collisions. We never hear of satellites breaking down and crashing into Earth. Right. We never hear this stuff, and more than that, we should be able to have 90 satellites with full 24-hour video of the Earth from outer space, not just the curve, but the full ball perspective.
Live.
And there should be many of them, all
Right.
at the same time. Now, because of Flat Earth, NASA had to go on Facebook Live, right? Facebook Live was really about letting NASA come up with their weekly updates and say, here's us at the ISS, which is Isis, which is a pagan goddess, by the way, and which is also who we're at war with, ISIS. The ISS, they use the same. What you'll learn with occultism is that they can't lie. They have to put it right in your face that they're worshiping other deities like Apollo, you know, when they're doing these missions, that they're giving their allegiance to other powers. It's just constantly any NASA mission, which NASA, ironically enough, in Hebrew, literally translates to be deceived. So NASA, in any Strong's, any Hebrew translation, the word NASA means to be deceived.
Wow.
This is what the word means. So
Pretty ironic,
most of truth is hidden right in plain sight.
One of the things I wanted to mention, just because I'm visual,
Do you need these balls?
I need the balls, dude. Give me the sun, give me the earth. I'm about to go down the rabbit hole with this. I have this buddy at work that I was talking to at lunch today. I told him we're doing this podcast, and he gave me the
cognitive
whole
dissonance.
Yeah, don't talk. Pretty much laughing.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
This is one thing I heard that I can't wrap my mind around. Maybe you can explain this to me.
Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
this is unrehearsed, by the way.
this is straight off the cuff. All right. This is the sun. All right. And we're supposedly on the Earth going around the sun like this, right?
Right.
Okay. So we're spinning as we go around the sun. So anytime that we supposedly see the stars, we're facing the opposite direction of the sun. So so we're getting the stars from this direction, all right?
Right.
No matter what continent you are, it's always facing the opposite side of the sun. So my thing is, all right, you see the Little Dipper over here?
Yeah.
It's December.
Right.
We're going around here.
6 months later.
We're in July, and I can still see the Big Dipper.
Yeah, the Little Dipper.
So how the hell does that make sense? I should be seeing a totally different star system. Yeah.
Whoa. Dude, for sure.
Yeah, the
So how does that
astrological.
work?
Yeah, so the astrological signs repeat not every year, right?
Yeah.
But every half.
Yeah.
We see them, and more than that. That sums it up, because one of the big things here is that you should be seeing, if you were on a globe, if this was a globe, you should be seeing an entirely different star system here. More than that, they're saying that the entire universe and all of the stars are moving. Our galaxy is moving millions of miles an hour, and we're all caught in the sun's gravitational pull. So not only does the Little Dipper, if you're playing connect the dots, and all the dots are moving, even if it's a very tiny fraction of an amount, all of written human history, we have the same exact constellations.
Thousands of years, yeah.
The same exact star patterns. For all of written human history, we're seeing the same constellations that Aristotle and all of these great philosophers were able to see. We all share this, all of humanity. If the universe is infinitely expanding, the connect the dots game should change over time. Maybe the scorpion eventually looks like it should be, I don't know, a grasshopper. I'm just saying, it's obvious that the stars don't move.
And that's
They're not,
something you
or
could,
rather don't expand away from one another.
And you don't need to know science to get that.
Yeah.
That's what I like about stuff like that. You can go out with a beer, look at the stars, look at them a few months later, and be like, what's going on here? These stars are circling around me.
Right. Right.
So that wouldn't work on a sphere.
Right.
So that caught my attention.
Yeah, that's
really
actually
big.
I had heard that before, and that's what on InfoWars the other day, what's his name? some podcaster. I never listened to him too much, anyways. But he was on the Joe Rogan show and a lot of other shows.
Bravo.
Yeah, Eddie Bravo.
Yeah.
That's what Eddie Bravo brought up at a table with some of the guys from InfoWars.
Who's Eddie Bravo? Is he a wrestler?
Oh, there was a Eddie Bravo wrestler, yeah.
He's jiu-jitsu. Isn't he in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, and
he's
he's like a truther now.
Yeah,
On the, you know,
okay.
he has a huge podcast that's apparently very popular, and he was interviewed on InfoWars, and he's the first guy to have a chance. And they of course they didn't have him interviewed with Alex Jones directly, but he was on the sidelines talking about the dinosaur conspiracy.
Yeah, that gets me too.
That'll be it. Can we get?
Yeah, we can get into that later. That's a subgenre, and
okay.
it's not. Yeah, it's just another aspect to the truth of as humanity, we're very gullible. And it's because they get us when we're little children. We don't know any better. You walk into a classroom, day one, and what do you learn? You learn, kindergarten, right? What do we learn? ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, months of the year, seasons, and then we learned mainly that the Earth was a globe. Mm-hmm. We left knowing that the Earth was a globe, and we would ask questions. What's in the middle? How do we know? When do And it's like they gave us a candy gobstopper with the sweet candy on the inside of it. Well, here's the illustration of the layers of the globe. You know what the furthest recorded dig on the Earth is, and where? It was in Russia. It was in the 1980s. And the furthest we dug into the Earth, admittedly, as anyone has ever dug, is 15 kilometers. That's the furthest we ever dug. And then we couldn't go any further. It was just too dense. And they abandoned the whole operation. So, yeah, that's one fun thing to research. It's funny how they tell us they know that the core of the Earth is this lava, magma, positive and negative ion, which spins so fast that it sucks everything to the Earth through an invisible force that we all believe in, and we have a lot of faith to believe in, called gravity. And that's what's sucking us all to the ball, right? This gravitron, this invisible force that we all believe in and we know because it hit Isaac Newton on the head with an apple, right?
Right.
It's funny, we used to call it the theory of gravity, the gravitational theory. And now they present gravity as a fact.
Yeah.
So I have an answer for gravity. I'm a licensed scuba diver. I got minimum certifications and at minimum still a lot. You can go down 80 feet with a PADI certification to dive. And what's funny is about water, it's a lot like what you'd think outer space might be like, and more than that, it's a lot like where we are now. Water has density, right? Anything that's lighter than water is going to float in water. And anything that's heavier than water is going to sink in water. And so the goal when you're scuba diving is to become buoyant, to become a weightless entity. So you wear a weight belt, and you weigh out yourself evenly. Balance it out. Then you add some air to your BCD, and you can float in water almost weightless. Like zero gravity, right? And then you can go around and go in water. What's funny is that water's counterpart is air. Now, air is what our atmosphere is. Air and water work entirely the same. Anything lighter than air floats in air. Anything heavier than air sinks in the air. So that's why hot air balloons and airplanes and all of physics are explained in the density of air. You can get an air balloon and have just enough oxygen, put half oxygen in a balloon and put half helium, and you'll have a perfectly dense entity floating around in our space.
Not having to have it tied down to anything.
Not having to have it tied down. And just as the water has currents and waves, the
like
air has wind.
Right.
And you probably use this all day long. What about a leveler?
Yeah.
You're using water to give you a flat
We use
surface.
water to tell us what's flat. Water's goal, its subconscious, automatic law that water always will follow is find level. Because it's heavier than air. So water doesn't... so on the globe, right? All the rivers and everything drain out into the ocean. But if you're on a curve, right? Like the Nile River... We know the Nile River flows out and goes out south. Right. But if you're on a curve, at a point, all of a sudden
Be
the
tipping
water's
the other
having
way.
to go uphill to finish out going south.
Right. You would almost be.
It would be going middle rate. You
or
know?
that at one point in
Water flips.
season.
Yeah.
It would reverse.
Yeah.
And go back up.
Yeah.
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 Wow.
So water's always just trickling out into the ocean, since the cycle of water coming up underneath.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, there's all kinds of things. But this is where like the freedom of it kind of comes in, is when it changes your worldview. And it changes how you, I mean, I've become a better mechanic. I've become a better dad. I've become a better person. Once I kind of got my head around some of this stuff, it led away a lot of the limitations that we see in ourselves and the potential we see in ourselves. You know, when you're like, wow, it's really, things are pretty. They're a lot more simpler than we make them out to be.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be a specialist to do. You know, to know that water is level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And funny, like you were saying, water always like we use a level in construction, right, with a little air bubble in it, and that will tell us what's level. But more than that, with technology, having optical zoom, it's so many myths are busted, right? Like people believe that ships go over the ocean and they start to dip, and you just see the mast of the ship, right? And that's true. If you stand and you're looking at ships far enough, it looks like the bottoms of the ships are disappearing, and they disappear into the distance.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, funnily enough, you get out a Nikon Coolpix P900, which is a layperson's digital camera with 120 optical zoom on it. You put it out, and we've done this, we put it out on the beach on a tripod, and that same ship that you're looking at with your own two eyes, and you're witnessing it disappear from the bottom up, you get out the digital zoom and you zoom in right into it, and sure enough, nothing's disappeared. It's the mirage and the haziness and the rubbiness of the mirage which makes you go invisible. And so then when you zoom in, you can see the bottom of the boat for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. And I think about the song from The Who, I can see for miles and miles, I can see for miles
if you have the
and
capability.
miles. Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, in of all, so much music, you know, Nirvana, Kurt Cobain knew. He says, I'm on a plane, I can't complain. You know,
when was that changed to planet? Because wasn't the T added to plane? Like, didn't we always refer to Earth as a plane?
The plane, yeah. That,
and they added the
Earth,
T.
Dude, Earth was originally spelled ERTH. And then, but this could be, you know, a lot of languages adjusted as time goes on. But that's, Earth was spelled differently. I know that.
Because I know that's it's going back to the biblical fact. I think it's
right. There's a reason we call it the plane.
Yeah.
The plane. It.
Yeah.
Planet. You know.
So it just evolved into that, but
Yeah.
originally it was plane. Well, if you could see, and the whole thing is seeing Chicago from across over
and I've
in Michigan.
seen that myself.
Yeah.
I can't convince you, but I can know for myself that I've seen that.
I've seen time lapse video of the whole skyline of Chicago. You know,
right.
Overnight, you know, from when the lights are fully on to during the day, like a whole 24-hour time lapse. And what I saw on one of the things I was watching is people say that that's a mirage,
right.
that the air bends the image.
Yeah, there's a
and we're able to see
newscaster
it.
that they have.
Yeah.
And he's like saying, "Oh yeah, look guys, the mirage is on tonight," and that's
Yeah.
science, constantly telling us that what you're seeing is an optical illusion.
Yeah.
And you know, and they're trying to always, you know, recalculate for.
What I can't grasp is what we're talking about right now. I mean, a lot of what we're talking about is scientific, but what the media or whoever it might be will call this pseudo science.
Right.
And it just seems so much like a simpler thinking rather than like, I don't know, numbers or
Yeah. Just using your own
right.
perspective.
What it is, and the official, you know, narrative or the official name for that is physical science. Physical science is science in which that is measured by the individual's sight, touch, smell, hearing.
Right.
You don't have to have a microscope. You don't have to have a telescope. Physical science is the physical nature of what is around you and how it's presented, and that's why compared to earth science, right, or compared to social science, or compared to any of the different sciences, it's in and amongst itself the most ancient and the most common form of science, which is like natural law is under physical science. Those types of things, universal truths, those kinds of things are all under physical science.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm no scientist. I've just had to do this research myself because of the light of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at some point you have to trust other people doing research that you don't have the capability of doing, that
right.
They're going to be right.
Whether it's in Albert Einstein, you're going to have faith in what he came up with and what he said, and you don't actually know him. You didn't meet Albert Einstein. You might have read his book and you got to know how he thought, and now you have faith that he did it right. It really takes a lot of faith to be an atheist. But it's funny, so many people are now, and I can't blame them. I can't blame anyone who believes that they're a monkey. I can't blame them. It's like, yeah, you believe what you're told. You believe you're a monkey. I'm not a monkey. I know I'm not a monkey. I look at my hands. I look at myself in the mirror. I know I'm not a monkey. You believe you came from monkeys. That's fine. I don't blame you. But you just got to realize that's what you're being told. You're being told you're a monkey.
Right.
You're being told you're insignificant. You've been told that your universe is an accident and that there's many other planets just like Earth. You know what I mean? What I found really funny a few weeks ago, Kyrie Irving, whatever his name is. He
basketball player. Yeah.
Kyrie Irving, okay? What's so funny, Globetrotter, right? It took a Globetrotter to come out and be one of the biggest, Hollywood type of folks to say Earth is flat, right? We have a Globetrotter saying Earth is flat. So that's one side note. When that came out, all I did was click, I just, as normal, clicked on Google, and there's a little bar at the bottom of the screen. Top stories for Google. It just comes right up. Right. Top story number 1 that day was Kyrie Irving says the Earth is flat. And I'm like, wow, it got in. So not everything is controlled as much as they might want it to be.
Yeah.
It's still free enough that it works. If we all click on a link, and all of us click the link, Google recognizes that, wow, that's a popular link. I'm going to put that to newsfeed number 1. What's so funny is the next morning, the next day, where that link would eventually stay at number 1, and then went to number 2, and then went to number 3, and then went to number 4, and it would eventually faded out like every other news story.
Right.
Instead of that, the next morning, NASA announces 8 new Earth-like planets discovered. 8!
In one day?
In one day! 8 new Earth-like planets discovered.
Lucky, yeah.
And then that took up the news feed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All 5 of them.
And the flat Earth got pushed down the line.
Yeah. You couldn't see it. Yeah, you got to go down the line. You got to actually click the link, open up the screen, look at all the,
Oh, man, yeah. Media plays definitely a big...
Oh, yeah. Because if that were the case, and if it came out that, we could actually prove flat Earth, why do we need NASA? Why do we need to dump millions of dollars a day?
Trillions.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing here is, why does it matter? Well, because there are folks, just put it this way, any basic business-minded individual with a budget of trillions of dollars per year, like NASA, they could get a lot done. I personally believe that $16 trillion in the last 3 years is enough money to end world hunger. I mean, that's enough money to make sure every human being on Earth has a well,
clean water. Yeah.
I mean, that's immaculate. These are corrupt people who are hemorrhaging money, and disguising it in something which makes people feel like, oh, well, we're learning more. It's justified. The globe's overpopulated. We can't fit here. That's what it boils down to. Real estate. If all the real estate is really one of the only things that you can buy today and know that you will make a profit on it. The economy might go up and down. You might, 5 years from now, it might be worth half as much. But in 50 years from now, it's going to be worth more than what you bought it for.
Yeah.
And that's real estate. So that's what it boils down to here is if more real estate were to be discovered, could you imagine? Could you imagine, like, you know, it's another
value decrease.
Or it's another reason to convince everyone that the earth isn't over. I mean, people who are living in LA right now, they're living in Los Angeles.
Right.
They wake up in the morning, and they go to work, and there's traffic jams, and there's lines, and there's people all over. They know that the earth is overpopulated. They believe this. They wake up every day, and they're just like, wow, there's just so many people. How are we going to sustain ourselves? We've got to go green. You know, we're killing this planet. Look at us. But then, you know, I drive all the time. I'm all over the place, and I go on road trips all the time. And what's so funny is between these highly densely populated areas, it's just endless amounts of national forest and endless amounts of federal land, and just literally for days. You can literally drive through Kansas for 2 days straight, you know, up in through driven from here to Michigan, and there are hours and hours upon hours in which there is no one around, and there is land for days and resources that are abundant. It is truly a lie that we've believed that we're responsible for quote unquote global warming. That's the biggest thing. Is like, you know, okay, I'm not the one flying around in a jumbo jet. I'm not the one flying around in Air Force One. I don't own 9 mansions, okay? I don't own a manufacturing plant. I don't own APS. I'm not, we as the people, as the 99%, and I would really rather say the 99.9% of people on Earth, yeah, we drive our cars around, but this is, even though we already have the technology to put salt water, into a engine and make it run. You could YouTube it. Engines that run on salt water.
Yeah, I've seen it, dude.
Okay?
Yep.
That technology and the diesel engine was designed to run off recycled vegetable grease. Restaurants pay to throw this stuff away. There's no reason why so many things to the average person, it seems so simple. You know, let's reuse and recycle. You know, this just seems so simple. You know, there's no accident that the higher-ups and the bigger government make it so difficult. Because they really want us all convinced that we're overpopulated and we're polluting the earth and it's all our fault.
You can't make money off it.
Yeah.
If anyone could just...
You can't make money. Talk about Tesla and Edison, right there. And Tesla, by the way, how a Tesla coil works is essentially the flat earth model. I mean, that's a whole other... a whole other thing. And in the atmosphere, how he put out wireless electricity to the stratosphere. He was, I mean, the epitome of using this zetetic model for his electronic physics to make it all work out. It's pretty amazing.
So he doesn't believe in the sphere. From what I know,
and so from what I know,
convinced.
Tesla quote. I mean, you can just Google, Tesla flat Earth, and you'll get 50 videos that all have different stuff to say. But there's some really interesting stuff in there.
One other thing I was going to mention is, okay, the oceans. Let's talk about the oceans. So I was always told because the tide, the moon has such a pull on the earth that it's sucking the oceans into a point towards it, and that's why we had the tide go up.
Right. The
tide go back down, and I always assumed that was, okay, that's proven and that's a fact. The only other thing that can control water is electricity. Can control water. So one thing I saw, if you run a sink and then you leave the water running, you take a balloon, scratch your head, you put it towards the water, it actually pushes it.
Pushes it away from it.
I can't remember. Yeah, pushed
it.
I
think it pushes it. Yeah.
It
affected it. So.
So it's vibration that comes off of it is what you're talking about.
Yeah,
think about clouds. Clouds with lightning and electricity, and they're moving.
Yeah. So basically, the moon puts off its own energy. It's electric based.
Yeah.
And when it's flying around, the water is drawn to it. I think it is drawn to it from what I saw in the video. So that explains the rising of the ocean levels, as far as the tide is concerned.
That's a new one for me. I haven't necessarily researched that. But one thing personally, again, physical science, an experiment that anyone can do that we did. Because when we were debating this stuff, it wasn't like I woke up and I was like, flat earth, it was like, I didn't believe it. Then I started
Prove it
to
to me.
have to prove it to myself.
Right.
Then I had to start actually doing some of these experiments just to see for my own eyes, not just watch the guy on YouTube do it. So if you get a thermometer, a digital thermometer, and you have, okay, so here's the moon up in the sky, right? Here's the moon right here. And you have a tree, you have a tree like so. So here's my digital thermometer, right?
Mhm.
And the digital thermometer that's directly in the moonlight is actually anywhere from 3 to 8 degrees colder than the second digital thermometer. And I do two of them at the same time. The second digital thermometer that is in the shadow of the tree. So it's blocking the sunlight. Literally, you have the two right next to each other. So a digital thermometer that is shadowed by moonlight is warmer than a digital thermometer that is directly in the moonlight. So the moonlight being in it is colder than being shadowed from the moonlight. That's interesting. That's a fact. I don't know what that all entails, whether the moon is like something with, yin and yang, like hot and cold, right? If it's some kind of form like, I don't know. But all I do know is that I've seen a digital thermometer directly in moonlight colder than the same exact Harbor Freight digital thermometer in the shadow of the moon. That's really interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
Especially when they're telling you that the moon is lit because it's reflecting sunlight.
Yeah. So it should be warmer.
This would entail that possibly the moon is emulating its own light. It's its own light source.
So I'm just gonna. I saw this too.
Yeah.
And I'm a visual person.
This is how it works.
So the sun and the moon, they're saying they're not 93 million miles away, right? They're
Right.
closer. Was it 3,000? They're saying around
Yeah,
there?
I mean, all I know is that becomes pretty obvious with
So they're-
crepuscular rays, sun
Okay.
rays. You know the rising sun, the Asian flag of the rising sun,
Yeah.
and just sun rays in general. If you take a picture of the sun and its rays pouring through the clouds, and you draw a triangle back to the sun, it's apparently much closer than it is than modern science says it is, right? Because modern science says the sun is 83 million miles away, but it also happens to be exactly 83 million times bigger than the Earth. So
Perfect
it's
proportion.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And so, but if that were the case, right? Here's the Earth, and here's the sun. Well, the sun rays, which are going everywhere, by the time they got over here to the Earth, this sun ray, this beam of light, which comes at the Earth globe, wouldn't be able to curve. It wouldn't be, it wouldn't be.
Yeah, it wouldn't make. You guys are almost done with those beers. I think you guys are having a lot more fun than I am.
You want to split it?
Yeah.
Split that thing. So basically, the way I visualize it, the sun, and a lot of people.
I mean,
don't
look
get
at how
this.
your phone is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the sun is hugging the plane, right? So it's a lot closer than we think.
Right.
And the way that we see the sun setting is the sun is moving around the Earth like this, right? This is how they explain it.
Right.
So the sun not necessarily is ever out of our visibility because we're flat.
Yeah.
We just can't see that far, right? We can't
Perspective.
see it. Perspective, right?
So,
Okay.
yeah, when I was a kid, it's funny, I was obsessed, and maybe a lot of kids are, I don't know, with drawing a straight line on a piece of paper and then putting two lines going like this and making it look like a road. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? The laws
Three-dimensional.
of perspective in art are a beautiful representation of how our eyes work. You know?
This guy's having too much fun.
We got the can drum circle.
I'm trying to
You
get
guys
this.
seriously pounded those beers.
Like,
That's awesome.
I'm trying to get this good picture.
I just want to say that in all of my hours and hours and hours and hours of podcast fanery,
Yeah.
and so many people and so many different podcasts. What's funny is tonight, this is my first podcast.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
So I am way stoked for this.
Yeah, you're our
And,
first
uh,
guest.
into it.
Dude.
Yeah.
And I'm stoked on this, man.
It's very fun. It's a lot to take in because there's so many different aspects of it that you could just go off on these tangents. But for me, I just always bring it back to What can I visualize?
How your phone works, that's how
Yeah,
it
yeah,
works, man. That phone doesn't...
So the moon's here, and the sun's here, and they're constantly just spinning like that, right? They're constantly going out.
Right.
So
that's actually what yin and yang was a representation of the Earth. In Chinese archaeology, and basically the representation was the sun and the moon cosmology.
and it's holding everything
And that's
together.
kind of what that,
It had
And
nothing to do with ninja.
It had nothing to do with ninja,
Okay.
yeah. No, it does, but, you know.
Okay.
But that was like what it was known as, was like a sun and moon. It was just like the same way we see in kind of Mexican folk art. You always see the sun and the moon depicted at the same size. You know, and all of this kind of Renaissance art too. Sun, moon,
I mean, honestly, even Masonic stuff, it's sun, moon.
Way
A lot of
huge in
that.
the Masonic stuff, yeah. And then they put the pillars
Yep.
with the globe and then the stars
Yep.
on a flat plane with the sun and the moon over it, just in plain sight for everyone to see. So that's a fun one too. So
My question is, so say this is the Earth, and I was talking about this to my sister and my brother-in-law tonight, and they were like, you know, what do you do tonight? And I'm like, we're recording a podcast tonight, and so my whole thing was, okay, so we have Alaska. Alaska on certain seasons is darker than most parts of the Earth,
For
right?
like a whole month, yeah.
Right, and then or it's more lighter on this part of on certain times of the seasons.
how does that work?
Exactly. So we're basically on. Do you have that bigger?
Let me
ball?
see your
Yeah,
flashlight.
right there.
Let me see your flashlight. I'll show you right now because this is. I don't normally have the beauty of having the new standard map of the world here. So, okay.
Well, let me ask my question.
Okay,
first.
yeah.
So my thought of it was, so we're revolving around the sun.
Right.
So we're spinning
365 days.
There we go. We're spinning, but we're tilting, and then we're tilting back and forth.
Well, the Earth is on a 66.6 degree axis.
Okay.
From what we're told, yeah.
Yeah.
From what we're told.
From what we're told. So what's
It's
funny
a
is
wobble.
it's 60. Do you have a calculator in here?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have a calculator on there, but yeah. So the Earth is on an axis of 66.6 degrees, which leaves us with 100 minus 66.6. Okay, so the science says it's 33.4 degrees.
Okay.
Of a tilt.
The tilt of the Earth is 33.4 degrees, but in their coding, they're telling you 666.
Oh.
You know what I mean? That's
right.
The official. I'm telling you, the official curve of the Earth is 33.4. That's what it is.
Interesting.
And so that leaves us for the remaining 66.6. So that's funny, but yeah. So you're on this tilt, and then what?
My idea was like, how is it going? It's just this tilt constantly.
Yeah. They're saying it's like it's tilted here, and then it's around the sunlight here.
Okay.
You know.
So probably what I'm talking about right now doesn't make any sense. Then I was thinking that why is it like on certain areas of the year that it's darker or lighter?
No, that does make sense. So
very valid.
here's a flat Earth explanation for that. If you have your flashlight open, and sorry for the people who don't have
I'm gonna get this good
cameras to view. Yeah, we got
that one or this one.
We got that one. We got this one. So
Grab that one.
now it works in the northern hemisphere because the northern hemisphere. Right? What's said about Alaska is that there's days of a lot of light and days of a lot of darkness. The sun doesn't just go right at halfway at the equator, okay, and then go around the Earth. It doesn't just stay at the halfway point. Throughout the year, it may go further in the southern hemisphere, and then on another part of the Earth of the year, the sun goes more in the northern hemisphere.
So at that point,
And the movie, I think it's the movie 30 Days of Darkness, right? Is that what it's called?
That vampire movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a vampire movie. Ironically enough, it was supposed to take place in Alaska, and there is no 30 Days of Darkness in Alaska. In Antarctica, on the other fact, there is. There are weeks and weeks and weeks of darkness. And that's because at that point it's our summer here. It's in the northern hemisphere. And the sun is out here. So as it goes throughout, Now, there are some folks, too, who even say that there's two suns.
Oh.
That's one that only photographs show you and give you, ideas that they're if you just Google image two suns, there's plenty of photographs of two suns. Now, they all could be totally photoshopped, but
that's
some people
Star Wars shit right
some
there.
people say that Lucas was kind of adding that bit in there as a truth in your eyes kind of thing. I don't know. I don't think but that's another way to answer some of these questions. Is that there's actually two suns.
And so when there's an eclipse, that's when the moon.
Because the moon and the sun are
the
the same size. They're
so
perfect.
They cross each other.
They cross
at
each
some
other
point.
right at the boom, and you normally see a little ring around it.
Right.
This map is badass because it actually, from what you're talking about, the
Right.
solstice, it actually shows the sun pattern that would create the December solstice.
Oh yeah.
And then the June. So if you see on the map, the sun here is further away from the North Pole.
Right.
And then this one, it's hugging the North Pole.
Yeah, so it's basically your explanation of what you're...
And this dude...
Because people
made
say,
this
well,
map
what
right
about
now.
Alaska's 30 Days of Darkness? Well, the first thing is Alaska doesn't have 30 Days of Darkness.
Like
That's
a
because
couple
Hollywood
weeks
gave
or
us
something?
30 days of, darkness in a vampire movie. But, it's the light. It has a lot of... that. More Alaska's more like it has 30 days of light. Something like that, because it's more in the northern hemisphere.
Been to Alaska is nuts. When you're going going to bed, the sun looks like it's going to touch down the border, and then it just pops
comes
right
back
back up.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy.
That'd be pretty cool to see.
It's fun.
Man, so what about Hollow Earth?
Yeah,
I
Hollow
think we
Earth
need
is cool.
to-
I think Hollow Earth is like right in line with the whole pillars.
Yeah.
I think it's a big combo. I think that Hollow Earth was obviously, fringe conspiracy stuff before Flat Earth.
Right.
And it's still now, even more than then, now valid.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff to be said for that. Underground tunnels.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you heard about all that and seen those videos of the semi trucks going. America has underground highways. We have underground highways that military and other folks have set up to where they need to go. They don't have to go in normal lines with normal, speed limits, and they can go underground and travel all around. This is stuff that's really already mapped out.
That's trippy.
It's already mapped out. And
Ricky, you were mentioning before we started this about the Flat Earth Society, and I want to get into that a little bit too, because you were saying.
Well, my
you
whole
heard some
thing
stuff.
from coming from this side of Flat Earth, I wouldn't say I'm a skeptic.
Yeah,
but
you're
more.
yeah,
I guess you would say it. That's what I am,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't know what you guys know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Jaden, you're like heavily into this,
Yeah.
and you know a lot about this,
Right.
and you know some of it, and so I'm coming from like, dude, I have no clue what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like a lot of the things that like I pulled up just to do some minor research. Flat Earth Society was something that was popped up.
Yeah.
It's out there. It's one of the first things that comes up.
Right.
And from what I have looked into it about, a lot of people are saying that was started as false information,
Kind
as
of
a
as a
false
joke.
information plot. Yeah.
They are set up more of a fraternal order type of membership. So
Gotcha.
you pay dues. You can become a member of the Flat Earth Society.
So why?
Okay, and it's
Yeah.
and there's legions. They have areas to hang out, just like elks, or eagles or masons or any of the other such folks, and that's fine. That's how clubs. Apparently, that's the older way that they work. Bad Religion had a song, the Flat Earth Society.
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
You're bringing it up. We gotta probably
Nice.
play that
Old
in the
school.
break
Yeah.
or something.
We'll put that on the
Yeah,
out.
put that on. And so that's one funny one. Flat Earth Society folks, they have a couple really killer documentaries from the 80s and the 90s that are now available on YouTube, where they make some really good points, some really, really killer points. But in between all the points are a bunch of things that they proclaim as truth. Like, the Earth is, this and this and this. And these are all the things that any one of us need to agree upon, that, I haven't sailed okay, with Antarctica in sight in a 360 around the Earth. I haven't done that. No one's done that. We haven't put it on YouTube or on Facebook Live. No one's done that yet. So we can't come off and say this is what it is, right?
I'm going to put it out there that Herman Flat Earth is going to be the first person to do that.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
I'll sponsor you.
Yeah, no, I was actually looking at, ironically, sailboats.
Well, isn't one of the things that the dude that sort of founded the Flat Earth Society says that he tried to go to the edge and he almost fell off, and all
right.
bullshit.
There's all kinds of silly stuff. Now there was a really killer story, and I don't remember her name off the top of my head. I want to say it's Anne something, of a chick back in the 20s or 30s who was a flat earther, and she tried to walk by sled with huskies and such. Tried to go to the South Pole, and then once you see, this is the big thing with South Pole. Once you go to the South Pole, then you have your globe. I don't know if we have a visual reference. So
let's do it.
You can, as a lay person, pay enough money to pay your taxes and your dues and your adventure fees to adventure in Antarctica. You can do this. Many people do this. They get in here, they go through the Southern Peninsula, they get to McMurdo here, and they hike to the South Pole, and they come back. And they hike to the South Pole, and they come back. And then many people have done this expedition over and over again. They hike to the South Pole, and they come back. So what this chick did, and she died doing it. No one ever saw her ever again. She went to the South Pole and wanted to continue to go further, which on this map means you're going into no man's land. We don't know.
She might not have died. She might have found a different
She might have found another continent. She might have died in the snow, and it was just way bigger than she could have imagined. You know, and so this is the big thing. Don't let anyone tell you that this is the border. That's the biggest thing. Don't let anyone tell you that the flat Earth has a wall. It could. But until we all go to these places and this stuff is open science and real scientists are on board and our children's children are voyaging and visiting these places and discovering them and documenting them, until that point in time, we just don't know. And that's okay. That's the beautiful thing. It's not that we know everything. Everything's already been discovered. It's that it's open game here.
Right.
You know.
So when you start saying that this is 100% fact, like the flat Earth, then it just kind of disproves
it makes you. You are now under this. You're doing the same thing they've been doing.
Yeah.
Right. So NASA's painting composites and saying this is the truth. So now you're painting a composite of the flat Earth and saying this is the truth. We need models. I mean, obviously, my friend is basically he describes it as the counter art house to NASA currently. My friend Matt Powerland, who basically resurged the flat Earth 8 or 9 years ago, he came out with a stand-up comedy on the flat Earth. I don't know if you've heard. Have you heard of Matthew Powerland or Matt Powerland? Have you heard on YouTube? Have you heard of the NASA channel? The NASA channel on YouTube.
Where they do all the live streams, or
no? It's called the NASA channel.
Okay.
The NASA canal, he calls it. It is a flat. It's basically So my friend Matt is the dude who brought back the flat Earth. He's a photorealist painter. Okay, so he paints photographs. One really vivid one that I remember is one of candles, like votive, like church candles, like votive candles, and it's a painting. But you would see it and walk right by it and think it was a photograph. You would think this is a photograph. This is totally a photograph. Who would that? But it's actually a painting. So he paints photorealism is what it's called. He got subcontracted to work for NASA. NASA comes in and says, okay, we have a distant quasar. Here's our telescope image, super blurry. And this is, you give you an idea, the temperatures here are X, the heats here are Y, we think there's greens and blues. So go ahead and make us an artist's rendition of what this far quasar looks like. And he would. And NASA has many, how NASA works, people say, well, how could they hide such a big conspiracy? It's called compartmentalization. right? Compartmentalizing everyone. The guys who make the landing gear, and the guys who figure the safety features, and the guys who do the radio technology, and the guys who make the glass for the spaceships, and the guys who make the metal for the spaceships, and the guys who make, you know, the landing. They're all compartmentalized, and they're not speaking to one another. And
they don't know what other person's doing.
Yeah, and so then the greater body of NASA is the one who unites all the information together, and then their very small, mainly Freemasonic group of folks are the ones to actually go up. So every astronaut, one time or another, is caught giving the symbols or wearing the ring or basically admitting in postcards. NASA has a Freemasonic memoir of the Freemason Apollo moon landing stamp collection. Okay? It's like the Apollo moon landing, the compass, and Neil Armstrong with his ring on. You know what I mean? Like, it's just pretty obvious that these guys are in on the...
So what about the women that's part of that? Is that...
Yeah, so
as well?
What's funny is the only lay person, the only non-NASA official person to go into outer space was a woman, a school teacher, and what happened? She died.
The space shuttle blew up.
Yeah, the space shuttle blew up. The Challenger. The one Challenger to them got blown up.
More symbolic.
Now, funny enough, though, go ahead and pull up Google Images. Challenger survivors. Okay? Go ahead and pull it up. That will blow your mind. Did you know that 5 out of... Let me tell you this. 5 out of the Challenger astronauts had identical twins?
Shut up.
They have identical
twins
that are still alive today. More than that, the other folks who didn't have identical twins, admittedly, are photographed after the fact. So some of these people are still college professors with different names. Some of them are still in the business. So all you got to do, anyone, Google image the Challenger spaceship survivors.
So they were never in the ship.
And basically, there are detailed videos on YouTube of multiple photographs of every single one of them still alive in 2017.
Oh my goodness. That's gonna be. I'm gonna have to pull that up.
So then they have an explanation for this for 5 of them, not all of them. The chick didn't have an identical twin, but several of the other astronauts apparently had identical twins. So they just say, oh no, that's his identical twin.
That's trippy, dude.
That is trippy.
If they can fake something like that, of course. They could do anything they want. Yeah.
Pull on the heartstrings.
So that's basically with when they send these rockets up. First of all, they're not going straight up. They angle and they start to.
So just tell anyone needs to Google time lapse of rocket launch, and you will see right away rockets do not actually go straight up in a straight line. All rockets eventually curve. So that's because a lot of people gather that the waters above are impenetrable, and so they got to just basically fly really, really high for a long time. And the ISS is somewhere above Earth, not quite past the border. So, and NASA has had many slips. There is video of NASA admitting that we cannot cross what they call the Van Allen radiation belts. So the Van Allen radiation belt is a radiation belt, right, that we cannot cross. And when we went to the moon, we didn't know what would